Good evening, everybody. Hello. Welcome to the Blue Abroad Show, the Monday Blue Abroad Show. I'm your host, Terry, and today I've got a guest who I've wanted to have on here for a very long time, but now is the time. Shannon, what is going on?
Hello, Terry. How are you?
I honestly feel like it finally, I haven't shaken it yet, but I feel like I shook a little bit of the anger and the disappointment off probably about an hour ago, but I'm okay.
That's good. I'm feeling a bit better myself today. Having lots of work to do kind of took away from being disappointed, I suppose. But we push on and we look to this week. And let's just hope there's a better improvement.
Yeah, 100%. Look, tonight's going to be an interesting one because I think Chris Beach, who's in the comments here, has summarized it pretty perfectly. Incoming, hard conversations, hard questions, trying to figure out answers once again. Yeah. I spoke about it earlier. We won't get into the game just yet. We will in a moment. But, yeah, it just felt like a different pain. There's a lot going on, not just in the footy world, but in Australia and Victoria and whatnot. And that might have something to do with it. But plenty to get through. So before we do that, let's run our little intro and get this show started the way we normally do. So stand by.
Internet. Martin's been very impressive every single time.
Thanks to all the Carlton supporters, thank you for all the love.
No sense of playing in Glasgow. And there's a magic moment. Ball inside 50, control! He strikes it beautifully.
Has a different ring to it tonight. It gets exciting, but it has a different ring to it tonight. That one there was made by Shad from Assertive Media, who has the studio for us usually on a Monday. We're going to get back in the studio soon. We're going to keep it more for special events and special occasions. But we do thank Shad for that. I'm going to put some people's names across the bottom of the screen. These are the members of the YouTube channel. So if that's something you would like to get involved in to help support the channel and things like giveaways and sponsoring players and generally just helping the channel grow, you're just welcome to hit the channel, hit the join button, and go from there. But in the meantime, Shannon, let's begin because there's a lot to talk about here.
There's a lot.
Usually we talk about the reserves before we talk about the AFL. Obviously, we didn't have a reserves game. That'll probably tie into what we're going to talk about here. But I'm going to ask you, and I'm going to ask everybody in the audience, as I usually do, to give the audience first. Those of you in the audience, if you could give a 3-word summary to what happened yesterday, that'd be great. In the meantime, Shannon, what was your overall feeling about the game yesterday?
Overall, I thought for three quarters we were competitive. There was a lot of fumbling of the football, I noticed, especially from our leaders. And when we had them for the taking in that second quarter, we just couldn't put it on the scoreboard. So overall disappointment, I suppose. And that last quarter was just absolutely capitulation to the highest degree. Like, we were lucky that they didn't score anymore, to be honest. So,
did you see it coming? I know that in hindsight I'm not surprised, but I really didn't see it coming.
No, it kind of came from left field. I thought 3/4 time, 3 points in it, could go either way. We've generally had okay last quarters, but history shows that, like, literally what everyone's saying here, we shat the bed.
Yeah,
literally,
we've been saying it for a while now.
Yep. Yeah. And I agree with literally every single one of these responses right now. It is literally, and coaching is probably one of the big ones. I noticed in one of those comments there that has been talk of the town today across many different platforms.
Yeah, absolutely. And look, all things for a loss like that, I think that it's compounded by the fact that there's so much on the line seemingly. Going into the game, what were we? 4-6, winnable game, a team who are not necessarily too far ahead of us. I mean, only last year we beat them. Granted, it's at the SCG. I think most, if not all, of the best players that we have on this list are available in terms of that top 7. I mean, maybe Charlie, if you still count Charlie as one of our best 7 players. I'm not sure what to expect from him, obviously, but everyone's kind of there. Yeah, it was disappointing.
Yeah, it's a heartbreaker, and because we know the talent we've got, and we know that they're capable. It's just that when the game's there for the taking, they're not taking that opportunity, and that comes from not like from a skill point of view, but it comes from the neck up.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely. So within that, there's a breakdown of a lot of things, because there's coaching, there's mental, there's high performance, there's a lot of things. What I maybe will start with is, what was there are so many themes and subplots throughout the game that happened. What was what was the theme for you that stood out the most? And you guys at home as well, what was your number one? There's a lot of things that didn't go right. What was your number one theme that you took out of that game? What did you learn?
I think we spoke about it just before, but I think the defensive pressure in that last quarter was non-existent, really. And David King summed it up perfectly on Fox Footy. I think it's been circling around all day. That there was key moments in that last quarter. Like Adam Sard was one of those key position players that he was talking about that stayed off his man a little bit too far in the anticipation that the ball would come loose and that he would be able to break. Instead, the ball was turned over and it was a goal. So when you in that back pocket is probably one of those key moments where you need to be goal side of your opponent. Everybody knows you need to be goal side of your opponent, and don't leave them until that ball has cleared the area completely. Don't play off your man, because our defense has shown in many, 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 many games this year that if that happens, we get goals kicked against us. And this is why we have those junk time goals, because those lapses in concentration lead to goals.
Yeah. Just it's hard to hear that, not because I disagree, but more so because you're right. And like the gravity of the game, I don't know if it was felt, because if you sort of I don't know if going back to the last time we played Sydney is relevant, but I feel like it is, because it was a similar situation in that at 3/4 time it was game on, and we lifted, like we found something. I can't say we ran out of legs, because there's no way that team is unfit. There's just no way.
Out. Yeah. Running out of legs is a cop out.
That can't be it. Where that was the 11th game of the season. They've well and truly got their legs underneath them after a preseason. I just can't sit here and say we're unfit, because we can't be unfit. So it's like structure, coaching, mentality, right? So the next layer to that is we're always looking for someone or something to blame. What's the first thing your mind goes to after we realize and identify that we had the mental lapses? Like, are you more in the camp of coaching? Are you more in the camp of leadership? What's the next layer?
Well, I'm kind of on the fence between the assistant coaches that have been there for forever and structure and leadership. There was one instance, again, going back to the David King thing, he mentioned that at one instance, Josh Kennedy was running away from Patrick Cripps because it was a free kick. But instead of Patrick Cripps, who we know isn't the fastest player known to man, instead of him giving the captaincy or the direction, the leadership to Jack Martin, who was standing on the mark of the free kick, run with him, he ran after him. The ball got to Josh Kennedy, led to a goal. So that comes from leadership, but there's also a structure issue here, which comes back to the coaches. And a lot of people are going to also mention match committee, but that's another conversation.
We will get to that. Don't you worry. We will get to that. Yeah. For me, like the buck on game day, for me, there's so many underlying issues at club level and decisions and mentality and standards and all of that. And that in itself is its own beast. And so we'll package that up for now and put it to the side. But on game day for me, yes, assistant coaches, help out and whatnot, but the buck stops with Teague on game day, I think anyway. And this isn't a ploy to get Teague sacked. It's just more about, at the end of the day, Teague makes the final call on a lot of things. He delegates to his assistants. Are his assistants good enough? I think the consensus for the most part is maybe not at the moment, based on what the supporters have been saying on this show, in polls that we do, based on the fact that we know that Leppich is being courted. We know that so many assistant coaches are being spoken to. So just seems like a problem that we just have to cop now, because nothing's changing until the end of the year. And there's a real darkness to that, like a helpless. We're already helpless as fans. We can't do much. But given that situation with coaching, and we now want changes, like, how do we live through this?
Lots and lots of wine. As we try. No, I don't know how we can see out the year in a positive way that we want to. Like, we will see wins. We'll definitely see more wins. Will it be enough to make finals? Probably not. Is it a disappointing year? Most likely. Do we have to live with it? Unfortunately. But this is what we do. We follow the Carlton Football Club.
Of course. I mean, I think it goes without saying. We're all going to be there next week. We're all going to show up. We're either going to be watching from home or those that go to the game. That's a given. That's we will always do our bit. Speaking of that, for those of you at home, and Shannon as well, I'm going to ask you. We're going to do the what worked and what didn't work. So Shannon and everyone at home, put them in the comments. What did work against Sydney?
After that first goal, I thought the intensity, we brought the intensity. We lifted. There was something in those 4 goals that we kicked in a row. We spread well. We slowed the game down when we needed to, because we know Sydney are a very fast side. We instead of bombing it long, we actually lowered the eyes a couple of times, and we chipped away at it, and then there's Eddie Betts' goal. Like, that worked. Like, I'll take that any day of the week. Patrick Cripps, he played his best game of the year. Like, he was unreal. And for what it's worth, I actually thought that even, like, Zach Williams played well off the halfback line. And there were a lot of things that did work, but everyone's just not going to look at those. Everyone's just going to look at the negative. But I honestly thought we spread well. We actually handballed well. Our kicking efficiency was good in the first half. But other than that, I'm just trying to pluck any positive I can find out of here. Mark Murphy came on. I'm very happy.
Mark Murphy did come on eventually. I think for me, what worked, and I hate to say it again because I think I did this 2 weeks ago when we asked it after a loss, it was individuals. And it's kind of, I'm seeing Patrick Cripps a lot here. I don't know. You did mention the spread. I thought our contested work was better than our uncontested work, and that sort of comes back to what you mentioned about spread. I actually thought our spread was poor. I thought our uncontested work was poor. I thought that's kind of how Sydney chopped us up. I thought their ability to spread harder than us for longer. Like, I thought we did it pretty well, but not for long enough.
Yeah.
And then I just found that, once that fourth quarter came along, their spread, their ability to find something more was just evident. And skill-wise, I actually think we had more talent on the park, to be honest. But their ability to run the game out and be in the right position at the right time, and I'm already talking about what didn't work. But anyway, contested hardness, it did work for the most part for me. Maybe now we'll turn to what didn't work. So of all the things that didn't work, and everyone at home, what didn't work?
Moving Levi forward in the last quarter. I thought he played well in the back line for 3 quarters. He held – who did he even play on? See, I don't even know who he played on.
Yeah, he was on McLean.
He didn't have much of an influence. Like, Levi did his job. I know a lot of people are going to say he shouldn't have been in the side to begin with. Whole other kettle of fish. He actually did his job, and then they decided to move him forward, and he just looked like a lost sheep. And I mentioned it last night in my fan cams. He looked lost. You can't just go and change the game plan that dramatically and take him out, because then McLean had a bit of an influence in that last quarter.
Yeah, it was interesting because, I mean, the thing with Levi was, okay, he came out of the side, he was managed. So obviously he had we were told about like the injections and the need to remove the fluid. So obviously needed a week, maybe. I thought he needed more than a week because he just looked, the mobility wasn't there at all. And I don't know if that week off actually gave him any more mobility than what he was showing us before he had the week off. And it just sort of begs the question, was it really about mobility? Like, because when that ball hits the ground,
he couldn't bend down.
It's not physically, he's not physically able to do it right now. Whether that's because of the injury, whether that's because of whatever's going on, he just wasn't able to do it. And that's where I think selection's going to come up now, because a lot of people talk about it. A lot of people have spoken about it, and fair enough. Like, when the teams came out, what was your first reaction?
Do you really want to know?
Absolutely. I mean, I know, but
I think I swore about 9 different times, 9 different words that I could think of off the top of my head, because there are so many other players that I could think of that didn't deserve a spot in that side before Mark Murphy. I'm not going to turn this into, I love Mark Murphy, he's my greatest player, beside the point. If you look at statistically the last 2 or 3 games, he has been one of the most solid contributors in that side. And I'm not the only person that was shocked that he was dropped. Literally every forum was like, what the hell is going on?
Yeah. I mean, I think even the people who have been calling for Murph to sort of be moved on and whatnot, I think even them were saying, of all games to drop him, that last week wasn't the one. And I just had this feeling about, we've dropped him. It's an important. I looked at the Sydney game as like, it's win or season over, and that might sound dramatic, but it's 4-7 where we're pushing shit uphill now. And I just thought he was the kind of guy that we needed to distribute the ball, make the right decisions in the clinches, and small ground. We knew it was going to be wet early in the week. I don't think it was as wet as what we thought it would be in the end, which was, I guess, a positive. But maybe round 3, or as you said, maybe an earlier game was the one to drop him to send a message to a senior player. But I don't think last week was the one. And we bring in Levi to replace Plowman. I think in the end, that's kind of what did happen. He replaced Plowman. The funny part about it is, I kind of understood the whole play Levi on McLean, allow Jones to go on Buddy. It actually allowed us to play Wiedering free, which I've kind of been seeing a natural movement towards that, of Wiedering playing a little bit more loose, because I think a lot of people might think that Wiedering's a great one-on-one defender. I actually think his greatest asset is his interceptability, but we haven't been able to unlock it yet because we've got Jones, and Levi coming in was probably going to help him, showcase that. Unfortunately, he probably didn't have the best first half, Wiedering. He got a lot better in the second half.
Yeah, I agree.
So from that point of view, I kind of get it. I do kind of get the Levi inclusion, but I don't think it was the right game to do it.
I didn't think Cottrell played all that well. Gibbons kind of did a few good things before he injured himself. Jack Martin could have used a week in the twos and come in this week for the second half of Sir Doug Nichols' round. It's just, this is where having the lockdown in Victoria and the cancellation of the VFL and the VFLW really, really hit home, I think, for a lot of people. And I actually thought Parks wasn't our worst player in the VFL game week prior that we watched. He would have been a really good choice on Heaney, I feel, or someone else in that forward line. I wish someone would pick up Isaac Heaney.
Michael Maloney's in the comments. I can see him here. He mentioned that he wants to talk about Cottrell, which we can. But he had the funniest one-liner of the fan. Like, usually I keep a straight face for fan cams, but sometimes someone will come along and throw out a one-liner and it'll just break me. And he came on last night and he said, Isaac Heaney couldn't have caught COVID.
Oh, I saw that one.
Quarantine because he had no man around him. I lost it.
He's not wrong.
That's the thing. He's not wrong. He's not wrong. for all the planning on Buddy, I mean, Heaney always is the type that gets us. It's that small, medium forward that gets us.
Yep. And whoever was on Papley in that last quarter needs to be dropped because Papley had zero influence for 3 quarters. Bob's up in the last quarter and then Sydney win the game.
Yeah. No, look, it's difficult. It's very difficult.
It's so difficult.
Yeah.
But you love him.
No, of course. It goes without saying. Could be difficult to do this as well, but we're going to try and give some votes. Yeah. So Shannon, could you please give us your 1, 2, and 3? And those of you in the audience, I know it's difficult. We won't try and give it honourable mention, but what was your 1 vote, your 2 votes, and your 3 votes for the game?
I have been thinking about this all day.
Mm-hmm.
My 1 is I've got a couple of players in mind for my 1.
Okay.
And I thought Jack Silvani's game was pretty good for 3 and a bit quarters. Like his intensity, he brings a whole new level of pressure. Mm-hmm. And you can really tell when he's not playing. And I'll give him my 1. 2 will go to Walshy because Sam Walsh does Sam Walsh things. He still managed 30-odd disposals while trying to be manhandled by any Sydney player that could grab their hands on him. And I can't go past Cripper for my 3 because he was an absolute contested ball beast yesterday. And I just wish all of his others would just follow suit, to be honest. Like, take a leaf out of his book, take a leaf out of Walshy's book. And, yeah, they're my 3 votes.
It was kind of weird because usually when Cripps kicks a goal and he's kicked 3, like, everyone gets around him and everyone, like, feeds off the energy, but... And sort of lifts along with him. It didn't happen. Like he lifted, and I mean, Shan, you sit in the cheer squad. Like, how many times has Cripps missed that set shot directly in front?
I ended up doing a bet last year that if he kicks a set shot, I will do a shot.
Oy.
And I was sober for the majority of the year because he just couldn't kick one.
Yeah.
And the one day he did kick 3, no one got around him. So it was kind of like when Stocker kicked his first goal. No one got around him.
That is one of my biggest bugbears in the history of my time supporting this football club.
Yep.
Blue Kane mentioned here, you got to have a Harry in the votes. I agree. I had Harry for 1. I know he didn't kick straight. I understand that. I actually did love David Teague's commentary around Harry in his press conference. He said, listen, as long as Harry's getting the shots, it's, he's going to have weeks like this. And I agree. Like 3 goals, 5. Look, it's not good enough. We need him to be better. But at the same time, Harry has earned some tickets, for you to say he's tracking along nicely. So I gave him the 1 vote. I gave Walshy the 2, and I gave Cripps the 3.
Yeah. How often did Fev have days like Harry had yesterday?
Oh, at this point in his career, I remember Fev kicking exactly that, 3 goals, 5.
Exactly. So everyone just needs to be not as harsh on Harry right now. Like, he's leading the goal kicking, for goodness sake. Yeah,
that's it. That's exactly right. I think for the most part, people have sort of given Harry the pass mark because it's, they understand. He's had a really good year, Harry, and he's battling through.
Unreal. Yeah. He has been an absolute, like, I knew he'd explode this year. I knew it.
Yeah. I didn't see him. I mean, pre-season, I was saying if we can get 35, pushing 40 goals for the year, I'd be really happy with that. He's done it halfway through the year.
He's already there.
Yeah, because I never saw. I thought it was unreasonable to say that someone could have like a quantum leap of like 30 extra goals in a year, but he's going to have 40 goals more this year.
Positives everywhere. He's shining. He's what worked well yesterday. When we actually hit him on the chest, it was actually worth it.
Yes, for sure. Now, Robert Santorino, the great man, he's asked a question, and it's a good segue because there's a few things here, right?
Yeah.
Now, the Sydney player, I think it was Mills, who punched Stocker in the goalies, right? Right in there. I think it was Callum Mills, and he got a fine.
He got a fine for that. Okay.
Yes. Now, Shannon, did you see Buddy bump Nick Newman?
I swore at the TV and my husband messaged me to keep down. Of course I saw it.
Not one fucking week. Not one.
Not even looked at. It was brushed aside. Thank you very much, buddy. Nothing to answer for. Get stuffed.
I think Christian said there was insufficient force to warrant a sanction.
It's because Nick Newman played the rest of the game. Mind you, last week, there was only 3 minutes to go in the game. But people don't remember that.
That's right. And there's a few things as well. I think Ben Mackay, who bumped, I can't remember who it was, literally bumped the guy in the back, didn't get cited at all. We're going to be howling about this all week. I can see it. We
have a clause that the great Yov in the cheer squad has bestowed upon us in the cheer squad. He goes, it's the Carlton clause.
Mm-hmm.
If it happens to Carlton, of course, it's going to be against us.
Oh, wow. He's not wrong.
He's not wrong. It's true. And like we don't get the free kicks for Harry being held, but the second buddy gets held, he gets a free kick. The Carlton clause.
Yes, it was Geary. Thank you very much to Blues, Canes, and Ashan. It was Ben Mackay's bump on Geary. So okay, so that's that. Continuing on with the game, but another theme here is high performance, because I'm seeing it today. I have noticed early in the season people who would ask questions of the high performance of this football team. And for me, I don't know about you, but high performance for me is not just Andrew Russell's ability to keep our players healthy and soft tissue injuries. For me, high performance is physical preparation and mental preparation. It's an elite term, right? So early in the season, I noticed questions being asked about the high performance department, and they were being shut down really harshly by people saying, you don't know what you're talking about. You can't question Russell, blah, blah, blah. I've really noticed that change over the last month. And I want to bring it up again. We brought it up a few weeks ago. And this isn't a ploy to get Andrew Russell sacked, but I have no issue asking questions about this football club. And I want to ask it again. You guys in the audience and Shannon, what is your observation of our mental and physical preparation week to week? Because we've had a new high performance department now for a while.
I don't understand how you walk into a game of football not mentally ready to go. Like it's one of those things, because I play, and I know from the moment I'm at the ground, it's game on. Right? The minute I cross that white line, it's game on. And I don't understand, like, from the mental side of it, what's going through their heads in the first 10, 15 minutes of a quarter to then shift in the last 5 to 10 minutes of the quarter so drastically. Like what do they do during the week to prepare for it? Like, I know you see the photos of them in the gym, and then the physical side of things, they're always working. They're always doing gym sessions. They're always training. Are they mentally training? Are they doing sessions on this sort of thing? Like, I've noticed a trend downwards, really. Like, and it's been the last 2 years, I reckon, that I've noticed it more, that our lapses are getting slightly bigger. Our time frames, like last year, the quarters were shorter, so that made the laps look even worse. But now I think it's just one of those things. I just can't quite put my finger on what's going on in that department anymore, because it's from the neck up most of football. So
yeah, I haven't seen a mental edge improve. To be honest with you, I thought last year we were showing more signs of it than what we are this year, because the losses this year have been roughly in that 20 to 30 point margin, somewhere in between. But last year, like, we were pushing, we were pushing Melbourne. They didn't make finals last year, but we were pushing the good sides. We were getting to within a kick. We haven't yet stamped our authority on the season this year. I mean, we won 2 games in a row against Freo and Gold Coast, which came after 2 poor losses to start the season. I'm really at a loss for words with how this team is preparing week to week, because further to your point about images of training and whatnot, and Teague talking about how hard this group trains, and if everyone could just see how hard they train week to week, they would understand that they're working hard. It's also when I hear the commentary, like Doc, for example, goes on the radio a few weeks ago and says, we're not shying away from it. But and I'm never one of those people that just believes in the whole, just wait and the light bulb will happen, and then one day it'll just be better than what it was for the last 3-4 years. Yeah. I think you're fraught with danger in selling that kind of hope. And I just don't see an improvement in maybe in our physical from the standpoint of the bodies are bigger, but I see far too many broken tackles. Far too many broken tackles.
Started. No, but someone made the point to me the other day, I can't remember who it was, that Melbourne were in a similar situation to where we are now. They were a Bitzer club. They would show flashes and then, drop off. But something changed in their mentality over the off season, and look at them now. You know what I mean? Like, it does it need to be a slight shift in their mental thinking, that just see that light bulb moment that you speak of? Like, is it just that little thing? Like, if you're not shying away from it, then show us something.
It's funny you mentioned that, because a good friend of mine, Weldy, sent me an article just before, because we had a phone call earlier today, and we were talking about Melbourne, and they've been asked really specifically, what's the secret? What's happened this year? And I'm going to read this out to you. This is from the SEN website. So Melbourne midfielder Angus Brayshaw has highlighted the D's off-field signing of Mark Williams as the reason behind their strong surge of form this year. I'm not going to read the whole thing out, but some of the important quotes. So this is a direct quote. The moment he walked into the club, he's been super consistent in driving a ridiculously high standard. There's no way anyone will ever meet his standards. All right? But constant and unrelenting pursuit of kicking perfection has probably changed our attitude as a group, and our confidence has grown off the back of the work he's been doing with us. The impact he has had can't be understated. So great segue, great quote. I thought it was brilliant, right? Yeah. So I've got an image here. Now, Pom, in his review, and this isn't just something he just said today, this is something he's been talking about for a while. David Teague's ethos is to be a kicking side. That's what he implemented in Adelaide as an offensive coach. It's what we think the Carlton way is: defensive pressure around the ground, score off turnover, high press, kicking game. Yeah. Have a look at this. We rank. Have a look at this. We rank
are 18th. Literally 18th in like 90% of those.
Kicking efficiency, we are the worst in the competition for a kicking side. Why am I not
surprised?
Okay, so there's that, and it just goes to show what is being said to us and what is happening. There's just a disconnect.
There's a huge disconnect.
Yeah, there's a disconnect, and is it really as simple as an off-field signing like a Choco Williams in the group? Who knows? I think it'll help. Don't get me wrong. I think assistant coaching changes will help. But if we have a mentality of being a kicking side, and we are the worst kicking side in the competition after 11 rounds,
we need coaches with a bit of grunt like Choco. Simple as that. Bring in Justin Lepich. He's got a bit of grunt about him.
Who's available is the question.
Yeah, well, I've heard a few are available, but can we please have the game plan that Sam Mitchell's using at Box Hill? That'd be lovely. Yeah. Thanks.
I know. I'm just going to put this graphic back up here because there's a few other things as well, because this will probably move into the just a general mid-season review. So first of all, thank you very much to this Twitter account, Carlton News Info. By the way, if you are on Twitter, go and give them a follow. Let them know that Blue Abroad sent you. But we are 14th for points against. We are 10th for disposal differential, 11th for inside 50 differential, 18th for clearances. We've got the best contested clearance midfielder in the league, I think, anyway.
Well, Cripper, 100%.
Yeah. So there's that. Now I'm going to bring up another one for you guys in the audience. This is the story, just the general story of what's happened this year. Take it on face value. This is what's happened. We've got it all in front of us right now. This is round 1 to 11. 0-5 against sides that are in the top 8. We're pretty sure Sydney might crack in there now. We don't know. 4-2 against the bottom 8. 4-7 overall. I really like this summary here. We were never really in the games against Port Adelaide and Melbourne. We didn't really convert our opportunities against Sydney, Brisbane, and Richmond. I agree with that. And unacceptable losses against the Collingwood and the Western Bulldogs, given the situation we were in against the Doggies, 28 points up, and Collingwood. I mean, that one hurts even more and more.
Yep.
So what are your takes from this?
Can't argue with that. Well, obviously 100% agree with never in it with Port Adelaide and Melbourne. And that Bulldogs game, I still to this day am salty at them for that loss.
Yeah.
So the stats are right in front of us. We can't argue with it at all. Like, there's no two ways about it. I've said it before and I'll say it again. Overpromised, underdelivered.
Yeah. The scary part is we added some seriously good players to this group. Really good players. I still think Sard and Williams are really good players. And even not at their best, they're better than the players that were playing last year. And this will be the segue into the mid-season reflection. And I don't want to go too deep, but you guys at home, if you could give a score out of 10, like we do the player ratings on the channel, with 5 being a pass mark, you guys at home, what would you rate our season? And Shannon, I want you, before you give us your rating, give me a bit of a overall, what are you feeling halfway through?
Disappointed. I've heard the commentary that I was watching the Sunday Footy Show. I think it was last week. They we've won the games they expected us to win. So the 4 wins we've had are the wins they expected us to have. So, and we've obviously that graphic shows the games that we should have won, but we didn't take our chances. So the overall feeling is, yes, we've won a few games. They were good wins, but just ultimately disappointed in the lack of wins this year. And obviously all the promises that we were given in the preseason have just pretty much dissolved in front of our eyes.
Yeah, and I speak to Joe Adamo, who is one of the host of the Almost Blues Brothers pod, and I love Joe with all my heart and soul, and I can see him keeping the hope and giving me something, and I don't shut him down, but I almost just sort of say, Joe, fuck mate, but it's hard because to keep going with the supporting, you need hope. You need hope, and that's why I think yesterday was a really poor loss, because I think it just put the final nail in the coffin in terms of, is this really season over? Is this no more finals? And then a lot of people will say, Terry, of course it was. It was fucking season over and we lost to Collingwood. But I really thought we were still up and about. And a little part of me says, just a 5-game winning streak will get us back there, but...
Look, it's been done before, but I'm usually the most optimistic person going around, but I know just by that stat alone, 0-5 from top 8 sides, if we win every game for the rest of the year and we scrape into finals, we won't make an impact.
I think we've got, off the top of my head, we've got GWS to play twice. We've got another Collingwood game, which who fucking knows?
Gold Coast again.
Gold Coast again. We've got. We haven't played Geelong.
Haven't played St Kilda. We've
got to play St Kilda at Marvel. So the magical fixture of getting easier. No game's easy. This is the AFL. It's very difficult.
Yep. Adelaide proved it last week when they knocked off Melbourne.
Yeah, exactly right. I like this one from Simon. 1 out of 10. Year 6 of a reboot. We should be playing finals minimum. This year has been an absolute stitch up. I think. I think he's right. Look, I just think we should be a little bit more established in year 6. I dare say. This is Jacob Wiedering. When you put it into context, Jacob, Harry are in their 6th years. They're almost, if not, they're almost halfway. You get about a 12, 13, 14 year career maybe. They're almost halfway through, their careers, and they're about to enter their real prime, and we're sitting here at 4-7. So, is it all doom and gloom? Probably not. It's never all doom and gloom. Like there's always, you can always win a couple in a row and turn it around and get the feelings going. But something's got to move here. Something's got to move, right?
Yeah, 100%. My overall for so far, I'd give him probably a 5 out of 10. Being realistic.
Yeah. So you're giving
them credit for the wins that they've had.
Yeah. So like a bare pass mark for you.
Not the low end of 5, closer to 4. So not quite a pass, but not quite, failed.
Nah, you can't sit on the fence, Shan. You can't give me that.
Look, okay, fine. 4.
Okay, a 4. Fair. 4. I've generally seen 3s and 4s in the comments.
One
and
win we've had.
Yes. What was your favorite? What has been your favorite moment of the first half of the year?
Beating Essendon. Sorry. That was because my husband barracks for Essendon. That was a quick answer. Sorry.
That was a very good day. That was a very, very good day.
That was the best day. That's probably one of our best. That was probably our best win because we hate Essendon. So
yeah, that's true. Actually, you know what? Everyone else, what has been your favorite part of the season? We'll ask that one first, and then we'll ask what your least favorite part of the season. My favorite, easily Essendon. That whole day, that was just beautiful. What's your least favorite, Shan?
Collingwood.
Yeah, same. Oh, mate.
I hate Collingwood with every fibre of my being. So losing to them is like losing a grand final every day.
The nerve on them to show up the way they did in round 2. Oh, mate.
Oh, Walshy. I love Sam Walsh.
Yes, absolutely. We've got a few here. Blues, Canes. Freo was the most complete performance. Rob says any day beating Essendon is a good day, 100%.
Agreed.
Beating Essendon. Eddie Betts' goal was a very special goal.
Yeah. One-handed commentary was fantastic.
It was. It certainly was. Sava says favourite Essendon, least favourite Collingwood. I feel like this is before the game was favourite, still had hope. Ari, who says the Dockers win and domination from start to finish, enjoyed it from the start. Didn't start enjoying the Bombers win until Cunners kicked the goal.
Fair enough.
I like it. There's a few here. Now, next item on the agenda, we're going to talk a little bit about West Coast. We're going to move on.
Yeah.
We're going to have to move on.
Sydney's in the bin.
There's a beauty in having a Sunday game, and that is when you lose, you quickly can turn around and move on. We're not sweeping anything under the carpet because it's unacceptable. But at the end of the day, that's the beauty of footy. You've got next week,
100%.
So let's talk a little bit about West Coast.
Yes. I'm a little bit concerned about West Coast coming off. I think they lost, didn't they?
They did.
Yeah. So I have this thing where teams that coming off a loss are usually going to come out a little bit harder. And we saw it with Hawthorn. They came out pretty good against us. But I'm just a bit concerned in regards to their forward line. We've got a pretty good forward line, West Coast. It's hard to go past Jack Darling. It's hard to go past Josh Kennedy. And I think Oscar Allen might be out this week, so that's a bit of a silver lining. Mm-hmm. But I'm not confident. Not at all.
I don't want to start thinking about it. I'm not ready. You can take over. I'm not ready to talk about this game.
Well, there is always a hope in every game that we play.
Of course.
But I personally, having seen West Coast this year, I actually watched a fair bit of the game because the team that I play for, majority of them are Essendon supporters, so winning that game was fantastic. But we ended up doing a little Zoom and we watched the game together, and just watching West Coast capitulate was pretty fun to watch. But I can't see it happening against us. We're the team that capitulate, not West Coast.
Yeah.
So it's
I
gonna be
mean,
hard.
this one's at the SCG, right? It's been moved.
Yes, it won't be in Melbourne. We were offered to play it in Perth, but we said thanks, but no thanks. Because why the hell would we give our home game away to Perth so they can fill the stadium with West Coast supporters? Not today. Thank you very much. I'd rather play it in a neutral ground.
Yeah, I'm with you. What is your what? So hard. I'm so frustrated, but I'm keeping a lid on. What is your on the priority list of things that have got to change this week for West Coast? What is up there for you?
The fact that all of our tools, I took 4 marks between them. That's got to change.
Yeah.
I think as a collective, they need to go back and just really, really watch the defense review, really knuckle down and just call it out. Just say, look, you're a leader in this team. That's unacceptable. Hard decisions, hard calls need to be made this week. It needs to be vocalized that this is unacceptable now. We're heading into the back end of this season after the bye. Things need to change. And I think it needs to start with the match committee, and it needs to look hard before they make stupid calls like they did last week.
Yeah. I mean, Teague mentioned in his press conference after the Hawthorn game, he obviously went hard at him at halftime, and he said it was the first one he's done this year and the third one that he's done in his time as coach. So we've had the big harsh feedback at halftime. I don't know what they copped at the end of the Sydney game. I would hope there was a bit of harsh, feedback there.
I think so.
Yeah. My thing is, the intervention has to happen. Had to happen today. The sit down, and this is where I get a little unstuck, because there needs to be a harsh, no more smiles, no more. It's going to be okay. It's going to be okay. Pats on the back. Sometimes you need to be stripped down and just told how it is. And I don't know if the group do it to themselves. Because and Doc, I love him with all of my heart and soul, and he's had an unbelievable month. But the symbolism of Doc in match committee this week saying, boys, we need to be harder at the contest, but apologies because I didn't put my head over the ball and just tried to kick it off the ground is where I get really frustrated and unstuck. But for me, there's got to be an intervention and a really strict conversation. They've got to set some standards, and there has to be a meeting of the minds for me.
I agree. And that was unacceptable, by the way, that kick off the ground. That was absolutely pathetic from a leader. But you're right. And hard decisions need to be made. And we can't just pander them like they're children. They're grown men playing a competitive sport. And it's beyond the joke now. We've seen it week after week. We hear the commentary behind it. Carlton are going nowhere. It's the same old. Like you said, the intervention needed to happen today. And for you to say that that's the third time in his entire coaching career that he's actually had a crack at them is a concern in itself.
Yeah, I know. Changes. You guys at home, what changes are you making? And Shannon, what changes are you making? Obviously, no reserves game. The game before that, they're coming off a 90-point loss. I think we know that Gibbons probably won't play because of the hamstring. So you guys at home and Shannon, what are you thinking with changes?
Can Mark Murphy just be a starter, please?
So he can start for Gibbons?
He can start. He'll be a straight swap for Gibbons.
Yeah.
I think Cottrell might need a bit of a break. I'd bring in Luke Parks.
Yep.
See, it's hard when you watch the VFL and there's nothing coming through. You and I were both at that game, and we were talking, and we're just like, I can't watch this anymore.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's worth dropping Levi and bringing in Brody Kemp. I've only seen one game out of him. Do we play him another game? I mean, if Levi can walk straight back into that side, that's a concern. but do we play him again? Like it's hard because you look at our injury list and you look at what's coming through. Like Lockie O'Brien didn't show me much, Paddy Dow didn't show me much, Matt Kennedy didn't show me too much. So it's kind of like, well, where do you draw the line? We keep saying that all these players need to be dropped, but who do you bring in as a replacement? Like, do you bring in a Josh Honey?
Yeah.
Do you bring in Luke Parks for Levi and then you bring in Josh Honey and for Cottrell and then Gibbons for Murphy?
Yeah, exactly. I think the other point as well is we're going to realise why we play Lockie Plowman, especially against teams like West Coast. You know, I think I don't know if Kemp can come in after a game. Like for me, he's very much like the future, and you know, after a game, I think they probably want to get a couple of solid rounds into him. I think like in defence, do they go back with Levi in defence and try that again and go again with the whole Wiedering free man experiment? I don't know. Parks and Williamson are probably the only two that could probably come in and do something at AFL level.
Yeah.
Honey, I get it. People want to see him. He's an impact player at reserves level. Maybe it's, you know what? It's actually just reminded me. Did you see Jake Stringer's post-game interview on the field?
No. I know he's asked for 800K.
Pardon?
I know he's asked for 800,000.
Well, that's interesting. But he mentioned, because they asked him, like, what's going on? How'd you get this win? Like, what's happening at Bomb? How are you handling the situation? And he was talking about the young guys bring the energy and the spark because they treat this like it's a school excursion. They're up and about. Yeah. And he was saying the older guys feed off that and just let them follow the lead with the energy. And maybe that's why Honey should play this week.
Yeah, he brings the energy. I watch all the VFL games I've watched him play. He's featured in the best nearly every week. Mm-hmm. And I think we do need that spark of energy. Like, always brought the energy when he first came in. Fogarty's been a great inclusion as well. Yep. So I feel like, but I want to be mindful of not going too short either up front, because that's also been one of our issues. We've been bombing it long to Michael Gibbons, who's about 5 foot nothing, really, when you think about it.
Yeah.
So you've got to be mindful. It's everyone's calling for match committee to be sacked. It's just, it's kind of hard when you look at who's on our injury list, who's unavailable, what we've got to come in at the moment. But there'd be my changes anyway.
Yeah. Samo. I want to talk about Samo. And the reason why I want to talk about Samo, and also this is, if any journo is watching this by any chance, I mean, these professionals that get paid to be journalists, how did nobody ask David Teague about Sam Petrescu-Seton? Not one person. It just goes to show how ill-prepared they were. Where are you at with Samo?
I watched him in that VFL game and he didn't really set the world on fire for me. I think he's more, I like to see him play more in the midfield where we actually drafted him to be. He's got the pace. I think it's a confidence thing for him. I think he's just not feeling the support. I think he just needs everyone to rally around him, because I think everyone likes to sink the boot into him a little bit. Sometimes it's understandable. Sometimes I don't see it, but I think he just needs a little bit of a confidence boost.
This one from Gavin Whelan's interesting. So I've had a think about Samo for a while, right? This is Samo's 5th year, drafted in 2016. Year number 5, he was asked to go back in defence. Newman was injured. Doc was injured. He learnt the new role, did his thing, did what he was told. I think he's been a little stiff as well. However, at the same time, I'm all for tough love. All for tough love. It was unfortunate that last week he didn't come out with that real will to want to be the best player on the ground against Box Hill. But for me, the opportunity now that Newman's back is for Samo to say, all right, you don't need me in defence anymore. This is now his time to become that midfielder / half forward. Is it the Gibbons position or the Murphy position for the future? That is what, we both love Mark Murphy, And I think Mark Murphy himself would love nothing more than Samo to play so well that it forces the club to say, Murph, Samo has to play now, you know?
Yep. Murphy's been a team player from the get-go. So
Yeah.
I agree. I feel like he'll have no problem if Samo takes his position. But so in saying that, they need to push Murph out, if that makes sense. They need to watch that position. Otherwise, like, there's no one pushing Murph out, really, when you think about it.
Yeah. I think the spark that Samo could, the spark for me for Samo would be kick a goal, back in the side. We've got 11 games to go. I'm hearing commentary, I'm reading it about he's got his foot out the door. I'm sorry, but it's in Sam Petrevski-Seton's best interest to play well if he really wants to leave the club. Let's be honest, right?
Yeah, well, no club's going to really pay much for him or offer much for him if he's not giving us any value at the moment.
Correct. Spot on. So for me, there's plenty. I just look at this and I hope more than what I think. But I hope it's just more of a bit of adversity that he's going to come through. Because at the end of the day, if he doesn't make it for us, and, you know, the jury is probably still out on young Paddy Dow and Lockie O'Brien, if they don't make, I think Fisher will make it, but he's injured. But if Samo, Dow, and O'Brien don't make it, which at the moment it's not looking fantastic because they're not impacting, then it's a big setback for this plan, this rebuild. And I just refuse to believe, and I'm happy to be proven wrong, but I refuse to believe that this is the last that I've ever seen of Sam Petrevski-Seton in a Carlton Football Club uniform.
I'm with you, 100%.
You know,
yeah.
I would prove me wrong, but you know, and I'll say I was wrong. But he has to have something. There's got to be something, and this comes back to coaching. Can you empower Samo to say, all right, Samo, we're going to put something in place for you to get back in the side. You're going to do the work. You're going to get in. And then once you get in, you're going to enjoy it again.
And you're going to stay in.
Yes. You know?
It all circles back to everything behind the scenes. It's just something needs to change. Because we want players to want to put in effort in the VFL, to want their spot back in the senior side. And I didn't see any of that in that VFL game. That's why we were smashed.
Yeah. It's such a shame that Corey Durden did his hamstring, because he plays like he's willing to die on the field.
And that's what I thought Matt Cottrell brought last year. I don't know what's changed this year, but he's not the same Matt Cottrell that played against Sydney last year and kicked that winning goal and went all beast mode after he kicked that goal.
Yeah, my worry with Cottrell is that, not worry, but like my observation with Cots is that the will and like the desire and the have a crack mentality is there, but I feel like when it comes to the skill and the execution, it's just probably where he's a little limited. And you know, with hard work, you know, over the course of 5, 6, 7 years, he can probably improve it. But I you know, there's just that cap, and you sort of use that burst of energy that he has, but it can only get you so much. You've got to have that balance of, you know, talent and skill. And the funny thing is, imagine if you could merge Samo and Cottrell, you'd have the perfect player.
You would. Samo's foot skills and Cottrell's heart. There we go, bang.
You know, I think, so it's tough. It's tough. It's tough stuff, Shannon. It's tough stuff.
It's the life we choose.
It is. And at the end of the day, we're going to be up and about probably, maybe not tomorrow, but I think Wednesday, Thursday, we'll be back drinking it again. Don't worry about that.
Oh, yeah. I've got the tank ready to go.
I do want to thank you for coming on tonight. I really do appreciate your time.
Well, welcome.
Great to have the ladies come and join me for the Blue Abroad show on the Monday. I tell you what.
You're more than welcome. I was very excited when you asked me, so it's hard to say no.
Absolutely. I also want to wish you a happy birthday again. So for those who didn't watch fan cams last night, if you could just put a little happy birthday in the comments for Shan, because you're dirty and you're 30.
I actually reflected on it yesterday, and I'm like to Dad, so you have a 30-year-old child, and he's like, oh crap, thanks. It took me a second because I'm like, 10 years ago I was 20. What happened?
Yeah, it's so true. Time flies.
It
Time
does.
flies.
It does.
Yes, but no, thank you very much. We've come from the northern suburbs, you and I, the Peter Laylor kids, Thomastown kids, and now we're on the Blue Abroad show on a Monday night. Look at us.
Go Baggers.
Absolutely. You have a great night, and everybody else at home have a great night. Have a good sleep. We'll get on with it, and hopefully the boys in the club can turn it around.
Go Blues.
See you, Shan.